The BBL realtor Javier. You go to my YouTube wherever or my Instagram and comment just snatched and I'll know you came from this podcast. Just let me know. 2017, people were scared. There has always been people saying the market's going to crash. There's always been saying people it's the worst time to buy. So the
Mm-hmm.
fear, as a matter of fact, is actually less now because it's almost like
Mm-hmm.
they're like we're doing they have to really analyze if they're ready to do this, so by the time they're actually
Mm.
doing it they're just like ironclad, whereas before they're like, yeah, I guess let's just go for it. It's about the same like when you bought.
Welcome to the Money Chisme podcast, a fun and safe space for personal finance, investing, and entrepreneurship tips where we get the chisme on all things money with sass and humor. I am your host, Violeta, a first generation Mexican immigrant, a real estate investor, entrepreneur, and I am here to help you kick ass in the financial game. Each week, I not only bring you expert tips, but also share the financial freedom and entrepreneurship journeys from our own community because representation is important. So grab un cafecito or si quieres an adult beverage and let's get into this week's Money Chisme. Hola, welcome to the Money Chisme podcast. With me today is Javier Vidana, who is a licensed real estate agent based out of Phoenix, Arizona, who has been assisting home buyers since 2013. And he also provides awesome real estate educational content to over 160,000, subscribers on YouTube. His videos, cover a wide range of topics, including like home buying tips, market insights, and just general real estate advice. Hola, Javier. Thank you so much for joining me today.
No worries, yeah, thank you for having me. There's no bumps that time.
No, no bumps this time.
That's the
I was
seventh
like,
time she's had me do it because she said she keeps hearing me fart and bump, and she's like, okay, can you do that again, but please don't make any noise. So I was like, okay, don't move.
I think you were even holding your breath at that point.
Yeah. She's like, what did you have for breakfast? Why do you keep farting and everything?
Yeah, yeah. So for those that I gave a little brief introduction of you. Can you give a little bit more of your background for those
Sure.
that who are unfamiliar with you?
Yeah, my name's Javier. Like she said, you can call me Javi. I essentially was born and raised in Maryville, which is part in Phoenix, where primarily Hispanic. Well, to the Weddos, not known as a good part of town, but it was totally fine growing up in. Um, Really, my claim to fame is the videos I make for home buyers on YouTube. I think my where I'm coming from is someone whose parents were too busy surviving and didn't really have time to step back and just say, hey, this is how things are done, or this is what you should do with your money. This is what you should do. This is what you should buy if you're buying a house. This is what you should look at. So it's kind of things I had to learn on my own and then teach people as as a young agent. And now in YouTube, just kind of get those lessons as a almost 10-year-old and doing this for 10 years old. I'm not 10 years old. I've been doing real estate for 10 years. Just been showing people now how the best way to do it to make better decisions.
Yeah, yeah, I've been like watching your YouTube videos and I really enjoy how you do your breakdowns and very like digestible and which is important to our community and just how you were kind of like bringing up that our community is trying to figure out all the like personal finance stuff and kind of having to hit the ground running and just like stumbling along. So I'm glad that you're, on YouTube providing like the content to teach people how to, buy their first house, ensure that it's affordable. And so, I'm glad that you're on there because I remember having to buy my own house and it was just by myself. And I learned the hard
What year
way
was
a lot
that?
of things. This was I bought my house in 2014, my first house.
Ooh, so that's when
And
things were cheap, but people were just nervous about the market, right? Because even though things were,
exactly.
people always say, "Oh, I wish it was that cheap again," but people don't forget how nervous people were.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I remember because People always thought at that time they're like, "Why are you getting a house?" It's just, it was just me. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and then I got like the house in like the boondocks. I got made fun of all the time. It's like, "Oh, you're like in the middle of nowhere," and I was like, "Well, this is what I can afford." And then I ended up selling that house for right as the market was coming up and everything was going crazy. So like I think I bought it for 143 and I ended up buying for 220 and like it needed work because I had it as a rental. And so I just let it go at that point. So but I struggled. I like that house, like it had drafts, like it was a house that a
It had
flipper
bats.
flipped. No, well that too actually
It
that
did have bats. Would
yeah,
you
it had
buy in
like
Transylvania?
it felt like it because I'm telling you, it was like the like kind of like the Boondocks. It was like in the middle, not necessarily too middle in the of nowhere, but like there was like forest and stuff like that around me. And so there was a few bats, not too much. It wasn't like infested with bats, but there was a like five
What
or
made you
so.
want to pick buy based on your affordability? Because I feel like it's a lot of times people don't struggle with that mindset. What made you where'd you learn that from?
From my parents, like I never with my upbringing they always taught me like the typical like buy everything in cash, don't get credit cards or anything like that. So I did have like that just basis, and I was scared too. Like I did not want to like struggle. I knew I wanted to have money to like buy furniture and stuff. So I ended up just figuring out what I can afford, which just ended up being basically what I got loaned anyways. So
Wow.
I think I got I think it was 150Ks because I didn't have like really a credit score anything besides my card. And so
How were your
they
parents'
there were
reaction when you bought a house? Were they more like panicked? Because I feel like a lot of Hispanic parents either they become very adversarial, like they're so like it's the funny thing is like they show up to the inspection and just like no, this isn't a good idea. It's almost like
yeah.
their concern and fear, which comes from a good place, becomes a very like negative thing. And instead of like being the support that we need, they become very like oh this is a bad idea. You're gonna do this, or were they more like supportive and like loving?
No, so like my parents had been pushing me to not like necessarily like pushing me, but that was like the goal, like, oh, go to college and buy your first house. So when I bought my first house, they were excited and well, just excited. But now it's funny because now when I buy my rental properties, that's when the fear starts kicking in. It's like now you're because I guess if to them it's like I'm stretching too thin or whatever, I'm buying too many houses. And I was like, no, like each one it has its own rental income, so it's providing itself. So with my first house, they were excited, and then after that, it's like my mom's fear is starting to kick in. It's like, you're getting too much. Now you're putting yourself too much in debt and stuff.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, that was pretty interesting. And so you are saying that is that what you're seeing as you help people buy their home, that their like families are kind of like hesitant at this point?
I've seen it all. But it's funny whenever I encounter a situation where it's a young couple. It's so funny. I used to be the youngest agent in the room. I used to be the 21-year-old agent or the 20-year-old agent. So I always like now when I say young, I actually have to mean like younger than me because I'm the old guy now. But yeah, no, I've seen the younger couple who is like looked at hundreds of houses online, looked at maybe 10 or 20 in person, finally get one under contract and just have this experience where they take their parents to the second showing or third showing, and it's almost like their soul gets absorbed from their body, just seeing having to defend their reasoning why they're doing it, or very much like yeah, it becomes very much like a situation where they get they just everything is wrong with the for why are they doing this? They should wait that a boom bada boom and so I always have to remind them like it comes from a good place. It's coming from a good
Yeah.
place, but unfortunately, sometimes they're just not given the tools to analyze that. They're saying this because they care.
Yeah.
And the people I help, they're buying because they can afford it. They're looking at their budget. They're not buying off what they can qualify for. So I remind them, you've done the work, but it's coming from a good place. But I've also seen people who are very supportive and loving, and just how proud of them they are. A lot of times, whenever we encountering situations like that, where it's the former, a lot of times they just don't take their parents until it's already closed because
Yeah.
they're like, I this is my decision. I'm not doing it for them. And I don't need them telling me it's a bad or good house. I'm doing my inspections. I'm doing all my due diligence. I'll bring them when we close for the party. And by then they
Right.
really can't complain. And a lot by then is when they give you the just like anything, right? My dad didn't tell me the congratulations, I'm proud of you, son, until very well into my adulthood.
Oh
Not when I
wow.
needed it,
Yeah.
when I was struggling. That's how
Wow.
it is.
Do you find that it's getting like that's that fear and that negative not necessarily negativity, but that hesitation, is it increasing now that everything's getting like pricier, the 7% interest rate, and the houses are like skyrocketing?
That's
Is
a
that
great
like an
question, Violetta.
uptick?
It's a great question. Also, do you is your light purple because your name is Violetta?
Yeah.
That's really cool. I should
Yeah.
call myself Verde.
Yeah.
I, it's that's a great question because no, it's always been there. It's always
Mm,
scary to buy. It's always like, once again, they look in the past with rose-colored glasses. When you bought in 2014, when if you look at a chart of the prices, that was the best time to
hmm
buy because prices were at the lowest. Even then, people were terrified. Even then, people were scared. 2017, people were scared. There has always been people saying the market's going to crash. There's always been saying people it's the worst time to buy. So the
hmm
fear, as a matter of fact, is actually less now because it's almost like
hmm
they're like we're doing. They have to really analyze if they're ready to do this. So by the time they're actually
mm,
doing it, they're just like ironclad. Whereas before, they're like, yeah, I guess let's just go for it. It's about the same. Like when you bought, you you paid 150, so your payment was probably under $1,000, but it probably
hmm
costs about the same to rent, right? And it's
Yeah.
just people always just bought because it's the same price. If I rent a house, it's the same price. It's cheap. What is might as well. They don't really think
hmm
about the consequences. The market was still going up. It's fine. Let's just go for it, and then it paid off for them. But now
Yeah.
people really have to analyze it, and it's really a blessing. I know it's a very privileged thing for me to say, and my heart goes out to the people that can't buy right now. But having to really analyze if you're ready to buy and you can really afford it is a lot better than just buying when things are cheap and just let's just see if it works out, because you have to really think about it, and because people are thinking so thoroughly, there's almost less hesitance when they're buying. But that fear is always there. That concern is
Yeah.
always there. There's nothing new about that. The parents are always concerned. They're concerned. The buyer's remorse always hits, no matter what price point, what time of the market. That's always there. And if you prepare for that, you'll be ready for it.
I didn't even consider that it would push a more um a buyer that is going to do more research and analyze their finances more because um besides just, ensuring that I'm not buying like a on top of my budget, um I really didn't consider anything else with home buying. Like I just bought a house because like that was the thing to do, right? At least with my family, that's what they push to, get a college degree and go buy your first house. And so that's what I did. But I didn't consider anything else that goes along with it, and I had to learn these things as they came up, like especially buying a house that was flipped and it had a lot of like not too many issues, but like, one winter in Virginia, like I froze my ass off because they didn't, like seal around the doors, and I couldn't figure out why I was freezing myself, and my like my bill was so freaking high and I was freezing my ass off. And then I finally figured it out that it was because around the doors they didn't like, it was a huge draft. So because they cut corners on that. So and that those things end up like costing, and so I learned a lot through my first and my second house. And so I feel that, yeah, you're right that now these buyers are like analyzing more what they can actually afford rather than just going out and buying like the pretty house that has all the bells and whistles and not thinking about anything else that they need to cover. And so I guess we can go into that of like what is some of the things that a first time home buyer should be analyzing, especially now, so that way they don't put themselves at risk.
I think the first thing you have to do is you have to look at what you're going to qualify for versus what you can comfortably afford. I think you have to also realize that the real estate agent and the lender are there to sell. They're not there to advise. They're not financial advisors. So if you, a lot of times, especially people in our community, we kind of put agents and lenders on a pedestal. You go to your deal, your dad, hey, I'm gonna buy what I want to ask some of you advice about a house. Go talk to your primo, and you go talk to your primo, and he's a real estate agent, or you go talk to people that are in the business. But the reason there's if you look up what the license is called for a realtor, it's actually called a real estate salesperson license. For a
Mm,
mortgage loan officer, it's the same. I don't know if it's called salesperson for mortgage, but either way, they're there to sell you a house and they're there to get you a mortgage. They're not there to advise you. So, not going to them for advice is probably the first thing, and I'm saying that as a real estate agent. Doing your own research on how to qualify. It's very easy to find out what you can qualify for. There's calculators online. There's videos you can watch. I have one on my Patreon. You just go, you will really just get 43% of your gross income, which is your pre-tax income. You subtract any monthly debts, and that's it. You qualify for that amount. And then you get that number and you think, okay, that's what they're going to qualify me for, but what can I afford? So then you go, you get your net income, which is your post-tax income. You get 25 to 33% of that, and that's the range that you should be able to afford. 25% if you're more conservative. That's the old school rule. Nowadays, I believe going to a third of your net income is a little more flexible, especially people that live in the city like me. And you get those two numbers, and if it doesn't work where you live, then you can't buy. It is that simple. Either we move to a different location, you move to the outskirts like you did, or we build other things. I tell people in California all the time, I would rather have multiple six-figure investment paths, my retirement built out, all these different money like places to put my money than an ownership of a house. If I
mhm.
die right now, I'm leaving my family a lot of debt with my mortgages. People, if you're in California and you pass away, that rent, yeah, you have a place that you rent, okay, but you've been able to build out your different investment avenues and you're much, that's okay. It's not, you don't have to be a homeowner to be successful. If you're in a place where you can't afford, build other things out. And then if that itch to become a homeowner is so strong, then you have to, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to move, or you're gonna have to go somewhere a little further out, or this wait for the market to crash obsession that people have right now. I understand where it's coming from, but it's just it's like you're waiting for something negative to happen that's going to affect hundreds of thousands of people in a very negative way for
Mhm,
you to become a homeowner. And it's just not the energy I would want to put out. It's like
mhm.
if you're in love with someone but they're engaged or they're married, that's like, do you really want to spend your time and energy waiting for something to collapse for you to get that person? You know what I mean? So spend that energy elsewhere, build out your other investments, and build your time. And if that home ownership itch is so strong, even after building that, then you need to probably move to a different area, and it's just the way it is.
It's true, even with real estate investing, there's people that are trying to invest in their areas. Like, dude, like I invest in an out of state. I've never set foot in that state, but that's where the market is affordable to me. And so you have to do the same with your investments. It's like you have to put yourself out there. And even with California right now where I'm at, where it was pricey, I bought in 2021 when, houses were flying off the shelves and it was intimidating, it was scary. And I almost was going to like back out and be like, no, I don't want to buy a house here. I'm just gonna rent. But at that time, like the rent was going almost the same as a mortgage at that point for those that are looking to get into the market now because I hear it all the time with people that are thinking about buying. It's like, how can they get over that hump? Because maybe they can afford it, but what is it that you're helping or that you see in your buyers that is helping them get over that fear of going out there and buying their house, regardless of the market.
The common thing that I'm seeing with people right now, in spite of this market, and of course, I'm not talking about budget. They can not talking about savings. You know, they have their emergency funds, they have their savings for their down payment, they have all these, so they're very financially savvy people. Um, or they are having an emergency fund, but they're using some kind of assistance or some kind of new build program where they're getting a low rate, et cetera, et cetera, but they're taken care of on the back end. The common thing is there's like a strong why. There's a strong reason why they want to own. They've either been renting for the last, 5, 6 years and moved 4 or 5 houses. They're so sick of dealing with landlords that really, if you think about it, and maybe you should have done a little more research about this, but I personally hate real estate investors. Just feel like looking at your house as an investment is probably one of the main reasons why we
Yeah,
got into this mess in the first place. But the thing is that you can find a place where you think you're going to be settled in for a while, but your landlord can decide to sell it like a year, 2 years later, and completely pull the
yeah,
rug under you. So it's like you never really feel like you're in a stable place when you're renting. And for a lot of
hmm,
people, they're either tired of having to move, tired of dealing with terrible landlords, tired of not owning where they live. They're tired for X reasons, that they just want to own where they live. And maybe
yeah,
the price is a little more expensive. Maybe like, so they have to work a little harder to get the savings up, etc. But there's that strong why. There's like, I have to do this because of this reason. I want to be able to own where I live and have like, I'm having, for example, my our kids. I love the fact that they're going to go to the same school. They're going to not move from this area. They're going to go here from kindergarten to middle school to high school in the same exact area. And I never have to worry about a landlord coming and taking my house because I own it. And
hmm,
as long as I stay here, they will be going and getting consistent, stable. Because I think as a kid, when you, or if you have kids, stability is one of those main impacts. So like, hey, this is where I grew up. This is, bring coming home. Like, my goal, my dream is, if our kids can come home from college with their partners or single, whatever they stay, and share, this is the room I grew up in. Like, if they come for
yeah,
Christmas or Thanksgiving, like, I would love that, because that's like, this is the area they grew up. This is the house they grew up in. And to some people that's important, to some people that's not. But the common thing I'm seeing is, for the people that are looking, that why is so strong, and they're doing it for that reason,
yeah,
is like, yeah, market's crazy, but I'm doing it
yeah.
because of this reason.
No, I agree. I agree. There's a little bit, and I actually didn't know that you weren't too happy with real estate investors, but like as one as myself, like there's a difference between the small real estate investor and these big companies. Like I do not advocate, it's not even my goal to, own 100 plus. Like you see these real estate investors of oh, I own 100 plus properties and blah blah blah. Um for me, the ones that I go for are the ones that are just trying to set themselves up as financially, build those multiple sources of income and build those little nest eggs. But I don't promote like going after single family homes, which is why I sold my first two homes, because I did have those as rentals,
It's
and I
interesting. So you
switched.
buy condos and townhouses,
No,
or
duplexes,
multifamily? Interesting.
multifamily,
That's I
multifamily.
respect that, because you're leaving the single family for the owners, and you're
Mm-hmm.
the multifamily for, yeah. I respect that.
Yeah, I don't even like the Airbnb type, because it's the same thing. You're taking up like a single family home. And so I'm trying, like, as a real estate investor, not only in advocating for like setting yourself up financially, building that wealth and generational wealth, but trying to do that. I mean, you're not gonna be at like super ethical. It's like you're not gonna be super ethical trying to be a real estate investor, just like with business and stuff, but you could do little things to change how we've been doing real estate investing, not taking up and trying to own the whole freaking street, a whole neighborhood, making sure that you're investing like the neighborhoods that I invest in are low income, and so I'm buying up these properties that these boomers just let be run down. And so like I'm going in there and fixing all this stuff, and providing better housing for these low income families, and also making sure that uh I am preventing the rent increase. Like with my property managers, they're always asking me like, "Oh, we're gonna increase," and I always tell them like, "I for what? Like, let them be." I'm not getting, taxes may go a little bit, but they didn't go up that high. And so that's kind of like the type of real estate investor that I'm trying to promote, similar to those that are trying to build a business. Like, do not go out there and try to make your millions off, doing, the minimum wage when, like housing and cost of living is high. Like, you know, just trying to do little small things that you can do. Like, I feel like we're trying to catch up with all this stuff, like trying to like build our business and stuff like that. But because of the other ones that have built their businesses and investments the wrong way, now that we're trying to catch up and we're trying to do it, we got to make sure that we're at least trying to help those and not take advantage. I think there could be kind of a balance. Unfortunately, these are the cards we're dealt with. We got to make the best without taking advantage of people. So,
I mean, yeah, the problem is there's no wrong or right in capitalism.
yeah.
There's no ethics in it. So you're right. Like, why play the ethics game when the system has been playing unethically so long, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
so I mean, I'm all for it. If you're going to be an investor, then go for it. My biggest issue isn't necessarily the renter investors, or like it's like the wholesalers. It's that whole industry of
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
going to find someone in need, buy their house cash cheaper than what it's worth,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
flip it to another investor, make 10 or 20K off the top, and let that investor flip it. And it's like, well, that person could have probably sold directly to that flipper for a lot more. I get it. There's gonna be people that don't want to deal with the flip and they want to just sell it cash, but that
Mm-hmm.
wholesaler, just because they're the ones out there calling or being more salesy,
Mm-hmm.
they picked up that person, and I I don't care. And I've talked to many of them, and they try to turn and twist their way into thinking how, oh yeah, we are helping people, but
They're not. They're not.
yeah, I mean they found an avenue to really take advantage, and I personally I despise them. I really do. I think the flipping industry too, um they turn something so pure into so I don't know, like communities have gone so much more expensive than they have to because people are
Mm-hmm.
justifying the amount of money they put into these houses. Um, and traditionally, when a house has been remodeled, I love the fact that it's someone that's lived there that just put their heart and soul into that house, and now it's really
Mm-hmm.
nice. But no, it's like they're creating like this artificially nice house just so they can make more money. And now the whole neighborhood is gaining value. And then now, next thing you know, which is okay for the time being, but 4 years later, that area is now propped up and it's too expensive for anyone to afford to buy in.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's a bigger
Yep.
issue, and of course, there's flaws in my logic as well, but
Oh no,
I'm
I
just a hater.
agree.
I'm just a hater when it comes to that.
I get it because it's true. Like there's a lot of things I don't like wholesalers either. I agree that I feel like they prey on people that are kind of on their last leg, try not to go into foreclosure or something, or they prey like on the elderly or whatever. So I'm not a big fan of those either. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of like Airbnbs or just taking up houses in good areas. But at the end of the day, our community is trying to like come up as well. And this is one of the ways that, has been proven to build wealth and multiple sources of income. But I want to push for you know, being a real estate investor with compassion and looking at the long run, not just like out here making money. Like, um, and I feel like most of the small time real estate investors, that's all they're trying to do. They're just trying to like, um, have that extra income so that way they don't have to be in this rat race and leave something behind. But we can do that by not being like a slumlord. Like I definitely don't push for that. Like take care of your tenants, give them a safe and not beat down, run down home. Don't try to like nickel and dime and squeeze every penny out of them. Like you could still make money and I still, make a um cash flow, and I'm not, trying to squeeze everything out of them. I keep on right now, matter of fact, I'm kind of a negative because I'm like going through and fixing like lots of stuff that the previous owners just like I can't imagine having how they were okay having these people live in these rundown homes that had like lead paint and all that stuff. Like it's ridiculous. So I see it as far as for me and the people that I try to teach real estate is to push for that more now. What other tips can you give these new home buyers? Even now that the summer is coming around, like I see these houses going and they're like sold within 2 weeks again. And like, how can they ensure that they're not like rushing? And um, for example, I know a few people, and I'm trying to keep them from like just jumping into something just because they're having that FOMO or that need to rush.
When I give advice like that's so interesting because like my advice wouldn't apply to someone living in like somewhere like California or something, right? Where like, oh, buy under your means and everything, but it's like, yeah, everything's
Mhm.
expensive and selling above list, right? So,
Mhm.
um, I mean, the best I can say is just really knowing the numbers and the data of the areas you're buying in, like before you make an offer on a house, pulling up the comparables, pulling up the data for the zip code, really going into the weeds of like where is the city going value wise, and doing your best to find that fair market value for a house and buying it cheaper than that number.
Mhm.
It's going to take some resistance, of course. You know, that means you have to find a house that doesn't have multiple offers, and sometimes the seller's not going to go for it. But if you make enough offers that are not super like lowbally, but like, hey, your house is selling for 350, but you know, it's been on the market for 50, 60 days. We'll give you 335 with 15K of concessions, or 340 with 15K, 10K concessions, or 330 no concessions. Like really hitting them lower, um, I think is the goal because you know you
Mhm.
don't know what's gonna happen with the market. You don't know if there's gonna be any more downturn. So the best way of protecting yourself is doing that. But of course, don't do that without knowing you can afford the house, knowing you can do all those things.
Are you seeing like a shift now with people not wanting to hire real estate agents now?
No, not yet. I'm sure it's coming, but I think the animosity towards agents have always been there. It's still very much a needed industry because you still need
Mhm.
someone. If you think about what the purpose of it is, there wasn't any buyer's agents before. I don't remember the years or the history of it, but there wasn't any buyer's agents. There was agents that were representing the sellers, and then they would find the buyers. And but the buyers felt like that agent was representing them, and this agent had to keep reminding them, "I'm not representing you. I'm representing the seller. I'm representing the seller." So finally, at a certain point, the buyer's agent, the idea of a buyer's agent came out, and then they found the way to compensate that person through the percentage of the listing, right? And then that got paid. And now buyers found that they had their own representation,
Yeah.
and it works for the sellers because it's someone who is licensed, who is background checked, and they have access to all to be able to access a house and make sure that it's safe and make sure that nothing gets stolen, etc. And if they are, then that agent is held liable.
Mhm.
So I think the idea that sellers are just going to let anybody walk in through their houses is not happening. So
Yeah.
that's still a very much needed thing. And I think we do provide some kind of guidance, and not everybody feels like they want that guidance or need it, but there's still a lot of people that do. This is a little controversial, but the whole 3% commission thing, I think that probably number should have been lowered after we exceeded like 250 or 300K. You know,
Mhm.
selling a $500,000 house and getting paid 3%, you're making like 15K. It's like absurd, right? It's like
Mhm.
when if you sell a 250K house, it's the same amount of work and you get paid 7,500. It's just, so there. It should have probably been reduced to 2% after like 300K price range. The average sales price went up that high, but I think a lot oftentimes what happens in history is when there needs to be a correction, if there's an overcorrection. And I
Mhm.
think the overcorrection here is completely going to a thing where the buyers are not responsible for paying the commission. I think what should have happened is we should have kind of accepted some kind of industry where the commission just gets lowered, so the
Mm-hmm.
sellers have to pay less, and therefore, but we can still help buyers at the same level. But we'll see. I mean, unfortunately, for buyers, all they have to know is that you have to have that conversation. I mean, there's always going to be
Yeah.
agents that charge very cheap, so you don't have to worry about that. I'm sure there's an agent you can find your primo that will charge you almost nothing to do it. But I think for the time being, the sellers are going to pay for the commission still. And the issue
Yeah.
is going to be when you're talking with agents, is that going to cover their minimum percentage? And if that doesn't cover it, then does then the buyer have to cover the remaining percentage?
Yeah, they're asking for this percentages and you're doing too much. And I was thinking something similar where it had brackets, like a 1, 2 bedroom in one bracket and like the 3, 4 bedrooms. And then once you get to the millionaire ones, it'd be a different percentage or package deal or whatever. Now with like technology and AI and with just like being able to automate more things like contracts, like everything contracts as far as I can tell. Again, I'm not a real estate agent. I'm just speaking from like when I've been purchasing it and everything is always all done online. Everything's pretty much automatic. How can you like let them know like AI is a big thing, but this is what actually goes on,
So
right?
what would you pay an
No
agent
one's
if you don't mind role playing? Let's say you're looking
sure.
to buy a house in Phoenix, and let's say you're trying to talk me down. Let's say you're like, you want to pay me. I think you have a number. You don't want to say it. Let's say you
Hmm.
want to pay me 3K or something, right? So let's
Hmm.
say you're in that position, and then I can kind of tell you what I would respond. So like you just let's say, hey, but the thing that people need to realize is people are going to get this agreement signed before they even look at a house now, which is sucks.
Yeah.
But so let's say we're having that conversation.
Yeah.
You're like, Javi, I want to hire you. I want to buy this house in Phoenix, but I only want to pay you 3K. Let's just go with that.
Okay.
And then you would say, and I would say, why do you want to pay me 3K? Then what would you say?
Like all I need is for to be able to access these houses. Can I have a list? Like, I'm gonna have my list. I go on Zillow, whatever, realtor.com, whatever the hell. These are the houses that I'm thinking of seeing. Like, can we set up to be able to for you to show me these houses? And what would be, I guess, well, in this case, I said 2K, right? Would that be feasible?
Got it. So here's what I would respond. If you're looking for an agent that's just gonna open the door for you, there's gonna be
Mm-hmm.
agents out there that will take a flat fee for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I don't even know if I don't even know. We're not there yet. Just so you know, out of there, I don't know how it's gonna look like. But what I would say is, yeah, there's definitely agents out there that will open the door for you for 2K. And if you want me to just go open that door
Mm-hmm.
and that's it, like I can send you the contract. You don't need me to walk you through it. You don't
Mm-hmm.
want me to call the seller. You don't want me to call and pull up comps for you because you can look at Zillow, but Zillow, you can't look up closed properties. You can't
Yeah.
look up pending properties. You can't look on tax records. You can't actually look up historical trends of where the prices are. You can't even look at the concessions amount. So you can look up the closed listings maybe on Zillow, but you can't see what they paid in concessions. You can't get a really good idea because the MLS
Mm-hmm.
data is only accessible to licensed agents. So
Yeah.
if you're telling me that's all you want me to do and you don't want any of that, I will gladly take 3K up
Mm-hmm.
front. Cash, please. No, I'm just kidding. I'll do it up front. But the thing
Like,
is, I'm assuming I would have another level above that.
yeah.
When what I do with my clients is, yes, the contract, but you already done this before. Yes, you already know this. But
Mm-hmm.
when we're looking at a house, I get you a good blueprint of where we are. I give you a zip code analysis of what's going on with those specific houses. I'm going to give you a really solid idea with the comparable market analysis, where we are with the price and what price I think we should go in at. On top
Mm-hmm.
of that, when we give you that, you're going to know a better idea of once we get that price, are we going to be trending upward or downward? What are the potentials here, right? So,
Yeah.
that's probably what I would say. I think it's more than just the contract piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's going to be another. The way I'm thinking about it is there's a minimum service, like you want just that, but I think
Yeah.
agents are going to be like, hey, but if you want this, like a little more in depth, which by the
Yeah.
way, most people don't even do that second level now, and they still get paid 3%. So I'm
Uh,
sure you bought a few houses where you're like, what did the agent do? Or I'm sure you've also bought houses where the agent like gave you all this information. You're like, wow, that was great. I wish I did this every time, right? Or what has it
Yes,
been for
yeah.
you?
Recently I was gonna sell this house kind of earlier last year, and I had this agent, and I
What's his
swear,
name?
like I don't even remember his name. Like he didn't even last as long as
What's his
my
phone number?
husband.
Let's put him on blast.
It's like he didn't want to sell the house. Like I was like, hey, he didn't even send me houses to look at. I was like, it really is just you put my name and my criteria in the thing, and it's supposed to send me houses. That's how it usually works. But instead, I was doing, going on there, seeing what houses, and I would send them to him like, hey, this popped up. What can I go see it? Blah blah blah. And so then he'd go show it to me, and like he didn't even walk me through the house. Like I did it myself. Either maybe he just thought I just didn't need it because I was more experienced, but like still like something,
Yeah.
Um and I ended up just like, you never mind. I'm not buying at the moment, just because I didn't find what I was looking for at that time. So I just waited till this year. Um, but yeah, I've had those. I've had one that really killed me. I really hated paying her the commission because she
What
was
was her
actually
name?
the I could look her up. I still have her. I was like, man, she's in Virginia. And
You
she
almost
was
said it
like,
too.
I even tried to go through what is it, like the broker, to try to like release me from the contract. Like, and that dude was like off on vacation somewhere, and he could not be bothered and never even called me back, and was just like, I'm on vacation when he answered me. I was like, well, thanks, I guess. And so she got some free money because like I had her, she was my property manager first, didn't do what she needed to do. So then I was like, I'm just gonna sell the house. Surprise! She had a clause in there that I have to sell with her. And then that
She had
lasted
her
like
clothes?
no, there was a clause in the contract for the property
Oh,
management that I didn't catch. So like that was a hard lesson learned. And yeah, she had in there that if I decide to sell, she is the first dibs realtor or whatever, and blah blah blah. And so I had to go with her. She took like 3 months to freaking finally list my house.
what people need to know. And I mean, I'll be honest. This is like I'm guilty of this too.
Mm-hmm.
You can find an amazing agent with great reviews, but if they're going
Mm-hmm.
through like a down season in their life, they're having fights in their marriage, they're having, a death in the family, or they're just like unmotivated that quarter, they're going to
Mm-hmm.
give you the worst experience ever. And you're
Mm-hmm.
going to be like, I don't get it. And guess what? We've all done that. Like, there's no one in this world who's been consistently awesome at everything they do for all their life.
Yeah.
I've done it. Everyone's done it. But then there's other times where you'll find an agent that maybe like, hey, you would never expect it, but you just find them at that right season in their life where they feel really empowered and motivated. And you're like, holy crap, that was amazing. And then, so it's when you're interviewing people, it's really not like what's your credentials, it's like where are you, where's your headspace in the next now, and where are you going to be after the next month?
Yeah.
If they're about to go on vacation, y'all, just a heads up, probably don't go over them. It's just like you
Yeah.
just because not only are they going to be checked out when they're out of town, they're probably going to be checked out mentally weeks before and weeks after. So
Yeah.
it's really, you have to be good at reading people, and you have to get like, maybe they don't have the best credentials, but man, if they're just on it, like they're on fire, like, hey, I'll give this person a shot. Or maybe they've
Mm-hmm.
sold hundreds of houses in the area, but there's just all those with one is when you meet them, like, oh, what the hell am I
Mm-hmm.
even gonna work with them? So that's just kind of the things you have to live and learn.
Like what markets do you service, and how can they reach out to you for any other like tips or like to work with you?
If you happen to be buying or selling a home in Phoenix, the general Phoenix, you know how it is when you live in a big city. Like you live in Los Angeles, but there's like seven other cities around Los Angeles. But you don't want to say, "Oh, I live in this city." You just say like, so I'll say, "Hey, anywhere in Phoenix." But obviously, there's a lot of cities around Phoenix. I'm available basically in the general Metro Phoenix area. If it's an hour away from Phoenix, I'll probably service that area. So East Valley, West Valley, North Phoenix, South Phoenix, I cover it all. Buying or selling, love to help you. But other than that, just continue supporting the podcast. Because anything to do with money, cheese, just continue to learn and educate and grow. And I think the challenge I have for a lot of us, I'm assuming it's majority Hispanic folks,
Mm-hmm.
is when we see another person, another fellow Hispanic or Latine person succeeding, let's not be a crab and bring them down. Let's support each other. I feel like the biggest issue that we have in our community and our culture is we tend to we don't support each other. We see someone doing good and we start feeling envy. We start feeling, that scarcity effect. And that's because we were given so little as a culture, right? We're given this little space, this little like thing, and we feel like we have to fight for when someone takes something because they're taking there's so much out there, and someone can succeed and do great and still leave enough room for everyone else. So let's do a better job supporting each other's, whether it be podcasts or Instagram posts. If your friend just got a BBL, him or her, go support. Hey, congratulations on the BBL. If they just got a house, if they just got a car, hey, congrats on it. Let's work on the envy. Me speaking as well, talking to myself. I really want a BBL. Anyways, where am I going? Just we do a better job as a culture helping each other out, I would say.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll have all your stuff linked down in the description, and
Make
definitely
sure to
go
put the
check out
BBL
your
donation link as well,
yeah.
please. Trying to get enough money
Yes,
for the BBL.
GoFundMe. GoFundMe for that for his BBL.
The BBL realtor, Javier.
Hey, you know what? That'll be some branding.
If I show
You'll
up to the
stand
show
out.
and just snatched, just completely snatched, you just know that was because thanks to you guys. If you
Thank
guys
you
found me
again.
on this podcast and you go to my YouTube wherever or my Instagram and comment just snatched, and I'll know you came from this podcast. So let me know.
All right. Well,
All right,
thank
see
you
you
so
guys.
much for being here, and I will see everyone in the next episode. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like and share this episode so others can also find this podcast. Don't forget to follow me on all my social medias listed in the show notes below, where you can also find resources to help you in your financial journey. If you're interested in becoming a guest on the podcast, you can find that information in the show notes. Other than that, thank you so much for your support, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.